All right, folks, as it is 6:30, I'm going to call this meeting to order. Roll call. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Carter.
Here.
Farney.
Here.
Fava.
Here.
Furtado.
Here.
Greer.
Here.
Hanover Friedman.
Here.
Lokshin.
Here.
Pugh. Rodriguez.
Here.
Rogers.
Present.
Sexton. Storr.
Present.
Sullard. Thorsland.
Here.
Vanish Theodot.
Here.
Wiggs.
Here.
Wilson. Cagle.
Here.
Here.
Carter is present.
All right, we have a quorum. All right, for tonight's prayer. Let us give thanks for the many blessings we have received this year. As we celebrate this holiday season, please help us focus on the things that truly matter and let go of worries or concerns. Help us to enjoy this time with our loved ones and to make lasting memories. Amen. We all stand and join in the Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, will the clerk please read the notice of the meeting?
Notice is hereby given that a regular meeting of the County Board, Champaign County, Illinois, will convene on December 19th, 2024, 6:30 p.m. in the Shields Carter Meeting Room, Brookings Administrative Center, 1776 East Washington Street, Urbana, Illinois, in said county for the purpose of allowing and ordering payments of claims against the county, receiving and acting upon reports of committees, and such other matters as may be brought before said meeting, which said meeting shall continue in session from day to day until the completion of said business.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda and addendum? Motion by Esri. Oh, Aaron?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve, but amend it. So move an amended agenda by moving 14A 1 through 6. It's the ARPA stuff under other business, to move it to right after 10A, the audit presentation.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second by Locke, to amend the agenda and move the agenda. Do we have, let's see, all in favor of the amended agenda? Signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. We have an agenda. Thank you. Let's see. The next regularly scheduled meetings are listed on the agenda. There will be a study session in January. Employee recognition. Can I get a motion to approve Resolution 2024-303, honoring county employees for years of service? Dr. Storr makes the motion, second by JJ. Would the policy chair like to read the resolution?
Thank you, Chair Summers. Resolution number 2024-303, honoring county employees for years of service. Whereas, and if you would, please, and you're here, please stand when I call your name. Whereas, it is the vision of the Champaign County Board to be recognized leader in local government where every official and employee has personal devotion to excellence in public service and embraces the highest standards of ethics and integrity, which enable Champaign County to provide the best customer service to its citizens. And whereas one element of pursuing this vision is communicating to employees that their service to Champaign County is valued and appreciated. And whereas Champaign County employees admirably serve the people of Champaign County with full commitment to the responsibilities of the county offices, work in partnership with fellow employees and county officials, and have dedication to the best interests of all the people of Champaign County. And whereas the Champaign County Board wishes to recognize the dedication and service of the employees who have reached 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, and 35-year milestones in December of 2024. Now, be it resolved that the County Board of Champaign County now hereby recognizes each of the aforementioned Champaign County employees as an asset to the citizens of Champaign County, and expresses our sincere gratitude and appreciation for their years of service. Presented, adopted, and approved and recorded this 19th day of December, Anno Domini 2024. If you would, please stand if you're here when I call your name. Shelby Seagroves, 5 years of service with the Supervisor of Assessments. Alan Miller, Highway, 5 years of service. Chantel Jasper, State's Attorney, 5 years of service. Justin Matthew, Physical Plant, 20 years of service. Troy Lazar, State's Attorney, 20 years of service. Thank you. Jamie Snodgrass, Highway, 35 years of service.
All right. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much for your service. Moving on, can I get a motion to approve the adoption of Resolution 2024-
No, we do retirement next.
Oh, it's retirement. Yeah, whatever.
All right. Motion to approve Resolution 2024-304 honoring retiring county employees.
So,
Motion by our chair, second by Dr. Storr. All right. Would the policy chair like to read the resolution?
thank you, Chair Summers, County Executive Summers. Resolution number 2024-304. Resolution honoring retiring county employees. Whereas it is the vision of Champaign County Board to be a recognized leader in local government where every official and employee has personal devotion to excellence in public service and embraces the highest standards of ethics and integrity, which enables Champaign County to provide the best customer services to its citizens. And whereas one element of pursuing this vision is communicating to employees that their service to Champaign County is both valued and appreciated. And whereas Champaign County employees admirably served the people of Champaign County with full commitment to the responsibility of county offices, work in partnership with fellow employees and county officials, and have dedication to the best interests of all the people of Champaign County. And whereas the Champaign County Board wishes to recognize the dedication and service of these employees who will be retiring in December 2024, now therefore be it resolved that the Champaign County Board recognizes each of the aforementioned retiring Champaign County employees as an asset to the citizens of Champaign County and expresses gratitude and sincere appreciation for their years of service. Presented, adopted, approved, and recorded this 19th day of December, Anno Domini 2024. If you're present, please stand. Dana Brenner, Physical Plant, years of service 11. Ms. Janelle Albrecht, State's Attorney, years of service 36. If you wish to say something, you can make brief remarks if you'd like. Uh-oh.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity to meet and thank the people who work for Champaign County. And I am particularly proud and appreciative and a little bit emotional at the people from my office who are being honored today. And this chair is really low, so I'm switching. So we'll start off with Chantel Jasper, who's been with us for 5 years. She actually started her career in the county at the youth detention center, at the juvenile detention center, as a staff person there, where she connected with and cared for the young people who are in our custody, who are attempting to move forward, hopefully in a positive direction. And Chantel then decided to join the state's attorney's office as a victim advocate, where she works directly with crime victims, people who did not ask to have to be in the criminal justice system, who are going through traumatic situations, who don't know the language or the directions, and are relying on her to help them through. And she has been a fantastic addition to our office. So I appreciate you for recognizing her 5 years, and I hope that she will be here in the future for you to recognize her at 10, 15, 20, and who knows what. Second, Troy Lozar, who is here with his wonderful family, 2 of whom were not yet born when he started working here at Champaign County. And I think that's really important. Troy joined the state's attorney's office when I was first elected as state's attorney. He grew up in this community, and he moved away with his lovely wife, and they decided to come back and raise a family here where he grew up. And he was in private practice and sent me a letter on November 23rd of 2004 that I happen to have in his personnel file, saying that criminal law and prosecution has always been at the heart of his legal career and a source of great personal satisfaction. I'd love to make a return to it. And so he joined us, and actually tomorrow is his official 20th anniversary when he was sworn in by the Honorable Tom DeFanis, and I have that here as well for him as a little memory. And make an impact on the criminal justice system, he absolutely has over the past 20 years. Troy has tried the most difficult, complex, important cases that the Champaign County State's Attorney's Office has handled over the past 20 years. He has handled child sexual assault cases, murder cases, complex financial cases, you name it, and he has handled it. And he has worked to protect this community with integrity, with compassion, and with a moral sense of justice that has been absolutely part of the core of what we do every day. And he has moved up in the office to now being essentially my right hand along with my left hand, Lindsay Clark-Revest. The 2 of them are the chiefs of the criminal division and work every day to protect our community. Even as recently as last night, when he was out at a horrific homicide scene in Mahomet, and I received a very nice thank you from the Mahomet police chief, specifically for Troy being out there assisting the Mahomet police and the Illinois State Police as they worked to resolve that very tragic homicide that happened last night. He left his home, his family, his children, as he has done so many times over the past 20 years. So I want to personally thank Troy for being here with me on this journey, and thank his family for supporting him along the way, and thank you for recognizing him tonight. And then finally, and most importantly, Janelle. On November 21st of 1988, Janelle Albright hand-wrote this employment application at the state's attorney's office. Hand-wrote. I have it right here. In her very tidy handwriting, asking for a job. She said she was interested in the position of legal secretary. The position sounds challenging to me. I have much to offer you in this position. And Deb Busey, who was the office manager at that time, in her infinite wisdom, after having Janelle do a typing test where she had one error, hired her for the position of administrative legal secretary at the salary of $6.10 an hour. And Janelle, in 1991, Heidi Ladd, who was an assistant state's attorney at that time, wrote a letter to Janelle's personnel file to recognize the excellent work and dedication of Janelle Albrecht, who had recently moved up to taking responsibility for drafting abuse and neglect petitions and helping with shelter cares. Janelle, during her time, went from being a secretary to a paralegal, and she worked extensively in the area of child abuse and neglect cases. Again, some of the most traumatic and difficult cases, and she cared deeply about the children that we had coming through the court system. And Heidi Ladd said, "Throughout this trial by fire, Ms. Albrecht has handled the pressure with calm, cheerful competence. Quite frankly, I am dazzled by her unfailing good humor and uncomplaining hard work. No matter how trying the circumstances, I have never witnessed her lose her temper or make a negative comment. She is a steady and talented legal assistant whose skills and professional judgment make my job much easier. Janelle's dedication and professionalism, coupled with the high caliber of her work, are extraordinary. I am constantly reminded of how fortunate our office is to have her. Without question, her work deserves the highest recognition." That was January 29th of 1991, and I can tell you that for more than 30 years since then, Janelle has met that standard and beyond. Janelle has been a rock in our office of calm, steady, smiling. I'm embarrassing you, I'm sorry, but I just, and now she has earned this retirement, absolutely, and her leaving is a blessing for her and absolutely well-deserved, but will be such a huge loss and felt every day in the Champaign County State's Attorney's Office. So I really wanted to share those thoughts with you and again express my appreciation for you commending and appreciating the people who work for you and work with you, more importantly, because they are the absolute bedrock of what we do every day, and we couldn't do it without them. So I'm just going to stand up and give my people and everybody else you're honoring a little round of applause, and I'd ask you to join me.
Ms. Reitz, would you like to join County Executive Summers in a presentation of
Absolutely.
remembrance to Ms. Albrecht?
Before we do
And-
that, let's vote on this and pass it.
Oh,
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Now let's do the photo op.
okay, and I think there might be a certificate for Mr. Lozar.
I got one in the mail.
All right, moving on, public participation. If there's a member of the public that wish to address, please fill out the form by the door and return it to me. I have several here already. We will start out with Nicole Massey and Robbie Walker. Normally, it's only one at a time, but I guess we'll make an exception with this. Oh, touch the button on that mic. When it turns red, you're good.
Okay, we were
All
already
right.
on. Okay, thank you for allowing us to come out, all the honorable board members. We are honored to have the opportunity to establish a program focused on supporting veterans and their families. Our mission is to provide a combination of training, education, support, capacity building to address post-traumatic stress, PTSD, substance abuse, and other mental health challenges affecting veterans and their families in Champaign County. Thanks to the ARPA funds generously provided by Champaign County, we successfully launched the initiative and hosted 3 impactful Healing Invisible Wounds conferences. The event allowed us to raise awareness, offer resources, and foster collaboration among veterans and their families and the community partners. We look forward to continuing our partnership with Champaign County as we strive to expand training opportunities to strengthen community partnerships and to ensure veterans and their families have the ongoing access to the resources and support. And just to add to that, as we progress, we are excited to continue incorporating additional psychoeducational training on trauma, trauma-informed care, and therapeutic interventions into our programming. These trainings will equip veterans and their families and the community providers with the knowledge and skill and understanding and address the impact of trauma more effectively. By focusing on trauma-informed care, we aim to create supportive environments that promote healing, resilience for those who have experienced significant hardships. Additionally, we continue to incorporate more healthy therapeutic interventions designed to enhance coping strategies and improve mental health outcomes. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Ms. Nicole Massey, who will enclose with the summary of accomplishments.
Good evening, everybody. I just see that there is no time, so if,
You have 3 minutes, keep going. You have plenty
all
of time.
right, because you have to stop me. If I start talking, I talk. I just want to especially update the new board members because not everybody might be very familiar with what we're doing. We put on 3 conferences, Healing Invisible Wounds. The focus was veterans and the family members. We had 3 conferences, December 2nd, 2023, June 1st, 2024, and November 9, 2024. And we had generally over 60 people that attended the conferences, and over 80% of those people that attended were veterans and spouses of veterans. The other 20% were stakeholders in the community who also wanted to engage in the training and get a deeper understanding of issues veterans are dealing with, so when they interact with veterans in their respective organizations, they can really provide improved services. I think you all received a summary of the information. I don't want to go through all the dates and the numbers. That might be a little bit boring. I just want to focus on a couple of highlights and responses that we received from the attendees. 86% of the participants reported an increase in awareness in PTSD and how to address issues with PTSD. 40% reported that they learned a lot. 53% of the attendees said that they gained a great deal of understanding, and 6% felt that their knowledge increased moderately. Our goal was especially that, to increase the understanding, to address the stigma, and to explain certain interactions, especially between family members. Especially the conference on November 9 included the families, and we had a very good attendance, good participation, good communication, good conversations. I see 40 seconds. That was fast. And I think we were really able to increase that understanding and make veterans, their spouses, more comfortable and recognize that they are not alone in that. and that there are resources in the community. There is room to address those issues, room to talk about those issues. We are very tight-knit in the veterans community. There is no shame in addressing those issues. They acknowledge that there were a lot of resources that it can tend to, and that we all have an understanding to address that. So to conclude, not everything that happens at home needs to stay at home. If we talk about it, if we put a name to it, we can increase the understanding and hopefully provide the help that our veterans need. The veterans assessment is still going on in the community. We will close it December 31st, and whenever the county board wants our report, please let us know so we can provide the information that we gathered. Did I make it in 5 minutes?
You did a great job. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Bobby Johnson.
Hi, I would like to start out by saying my name. I'm really not into public speaking. I apologize at first. My name is Bobby Johnson. I'm a Champaign County employee. I've been employed by Champaign County for 20 years. I would like to start out by saying when I first started at Champaign County, I was really excited by having such a prestigious job. Back then, when you got a job at Champaign County, it was like, oh my God, you know, I can't believe I actually got hired by Champaign County. You know, the great wages, the great benefits, employee recognition, like how could I ever get such a great job? Now, being an employee here for 20 years, it's like the county doesn't care about you. They want to offer you 1% wage. They don't want to do anything for you. They don't want to listen to any of your needs or any of your thoughts or anything like that. I'm sure most of you are aware we are in negotiations right now, and the labor committee is saying we're going to offer you 1% for the next 3 years. If you weren't aware, that's what they're offering. Sorry, I'm just kind of all over the place with this. I hope you think we're better than 1%. I don't know if you've ever been at a job where you were offered 1% and think that that's feasible, because I'm sure you're aware of gas is going up, groceries going up and everything. I don't know if you can live on what most of us make here, but I doubt that you can. We need your support. We need the department heads that are here, their support. We need you to back us, to help us, to listen to get with the labor committee to get something done. This is ridiculous. We've been putting up with this year after year after year after year. Minimum wage is going up after the first of the year to $15 an hour. Do you know some of the employees here only make like $15.01? I mean, they're going to be making minimum wage, and they've been here for several years as well. It's getting ridiculous. I'm sorry that I keep repeating myself, but it's sickening to work for Champaign County and you barely make minimum wage. I mean, as a 20-year employee, I've been fighting my butt off. And you say that, department heads, I believe, management comes to you and like, well, we don't know how we can't keep people. What do you mean you don't understand how you can't keep people? Because you're not paying. You're not paying the people to do the job, and you wonder why people leave. You have the long-term longevity people. You don't want to keep them because you don't want to pay them. You want to get new people in, but you can't pay them because they can go to McDonald's and make $20 an hour. You can go to Portillo's and start out at $17, $18 an hour. You can do factory jobs, manpower or whatever it is now, and start at factory jobs starting at probably $20 an hour. I don't know, it's just sickening for being, a county employee that when you're here, as long as I have, and most of the people in the room behind me who are county employees, who put a lot of heart and soul into what we do, who are treated the way that we are treated. Obviously, we are here to stand up, and a lot of employees can't even be here tonight to show their support because they're working another job. Now, how sad is that when you've been here for a lifetime, it's your second family, and you have to work a second job? I mean, you can't even be home with your first family because it's just unfathomable. And then tell me about this Gallagher study. I don't know, you did some first study, you paid, I don't even know what about that. Your second study, you did whatever. Did we ever get results? Okay, somebody's gonna tell me, yes, we got results and everything. What did your results tell anybody? I mean, we supposedly got answers, but I don't know. Somebody break it down for me. Please, somebody tell me what we paid for that. Either one. I mean, I would really like to see, I mean, in layman's terms, what we got out of any of that. I believe on one of them, it did say the highway should be paid at least 3% per year, but your labor committee came back and said you are going to offer them 1%. So according to your studies, you're not even going to offer them what your study said. So that's a good thing for that study. Good thing we paid Gallagher whatever we paid them for this last study. Something about some new job positions that were created here at Brookins for some, I don't remember exactly what they were, but don't we have employees that can already do some of those things that can be incorporated into what some of the employees were already doing, but yet we created job positions for those? So I don't think we should have make new job positions for the employees that we already have and pay them more, except for the employees that we already have doing those jobs, more than likely, pay them a little bit more. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I think I'm kind of confusing everyone, but I think everybody gets the gist of what I'm saying. We have money. You had money to buy the building in downtown Urbana.
Ms. Johnson, you have gone over 5, so can you wrap it up in a couple of seconds
You
or a
had
couple
money to
sentences?
buy the building in downtown Urbana. You still haven't opened it. I know because I work at the courthouse. We know it's kind of a crap show of everything that's going on there. Everything keeps getting pushed out. Money's getting dispersed everywhere or whatever. Champaign County has the money to give its employees a decent raise, is what it
Thank
boils
you.
down to.
Thank you. We need to move on. Next is Natalie Nagel.
Hi, everyone. My name's Natalie Nagel. I'm a staff representative for AFSCME Council 31. And in my role at AFSCME, I have had the pleasure of representing a few hundred Champaign County employees for the past 5 years. We represent most of the office workers at both the courthouse and Brookins, the highway department, animal control, coroner's office, sheriff's office, maintenance, custodians, master controllers, and more. Some of them were recognized tonight for their decades of service to this county. I know that all of you have day jobs. You probably don't get around to county workplaces as often as you would like. So I want to take a couple minutes for us all to put ourselves in their shoes. Imagine spending several hours in the middle of the night at a fatal accident or a drug overdose. Maybe it's pouring rain, maybe it's freezing cold, or working a 12-hour shift, plowing roads when everyone else is urged to stay home because of the dangerous conditions. What if you worked at the courthouse where people's emotions run high and you have to take the brunt of it? This also goes for the treasurer's office at tax time. What if your 24/7 department struggled so much to recruit and retain staff that you were the only person qualified to be on call for months? And so you weren't sure that you would be able to see your dying mother in another county. Luckily, that person had a union, and they did get to see her before she passed. What if multiple times a week you had to deal with aggressive dogs or handle bats, some of whom test positive for rabies, and your employer will only get you a preventative rabies vaccine if they decide they have enough funds and if you are on their health insurance. Otherwise, I guess you just have to risk it with a 100% lethal but 100% preventable disease. Does that sound shocking to you? Because that's the county's proposal. That's your proposal right now. What if you were doing any of the work I just mentioned and you were offered a financial package that would increase your pre-tax pay by about $10 a month? Does that seem fair? Would you keep doing it? Obviously, you've heard some frustration already. You've no idea the amount of frustration that is behind what you've already heard. I understand public entities only have a set amount of money. It's difficult to find more revenue. But I also know that public budgets and the way they allocate their money are a demonstration of priorities. And so I'm urging you to demonstrate to your employees that they are a priority and come to the bargaining table with proposals that show them dignity and respect for the work that they do for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Leslie Erdman.
Sorry. Thank you. I'm a court clerk at the courthouse. I've been with the county about 9 years. I work closely with members of the community, with attorneys in the community, and most importantly, I work closely with other county employees. Everyone in the back, with Bobby. We work hard every day for the county. And I struggled a lot with what I wanted to say, and ultimately what I came up with is the idea that we're gonna get a 1% raise for the next 3 years felt like a slap in the face to everything that we've worked for. And ultimately, it just shows what's truly important to county leadership. And it's not those of us that are in the room, and it's not the people that I work with every day and that I value. And I just would like everyone to think about how much they value the work that we do and show us that. Thank you.
C.C. Phillips.
Hi, y'all. I'm Cece Phillips. I am in the circuit clerk's office. I've been there for 10 plus years. Some of you honored me at a recent county board meeting. Thank you for that. But I'm going to go off of what even Leslie said. A 1, even a 2% raise is a slap in the face, and that is not honoring your employees who work very hard every day. You know, I hear a lot about the great things you want to do in the community, and that's wonderful. But guess where your community starts? It starts right here with your employees. We deserve a fair raise. We deserve to be heard, and we deserve to be respected. And I'm asking you to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes public comment. Thank you very much. Moving on, do members of the board have communications to share? Member Carter.
I just wanted to point out, with bipartisan efforts, we are collecting signatures. We are hoping to get 6,500 signatures to eliminate the county executive's position. I'm sick of it. I don't think that he works for the people in this building nor this community. And I feel like our county would be ran much better with a county administrator versus a county executive. So this is bipartisan effort. We are running busy, but we're getting those signatures. We're getting those petitions signed. And I need the community help. So please reach out to me. Also, you can reach out to some of the Republicans as well. They are circulating petitions as well. We are trying to get this on the ballot for 2026. Thank you and happy holidays.
Other board members? Ellie?
I just wanted to share a brief update on our gun safety program that is funded by a grant from the Illinois Department of Public Health. Really pleased with the progress that we're making. Just wanted to share a couple quick numbers with the board and the public. We've already distributed over 100 biometric gun safes and 700 cable gun locks throughout the county. And our trainings have been attended really, really well by everyone from RPC to the School of Social Work. We've also been at events including Healing Invisible Wounds. So it's glad to partner with you all. And if anybody has any questions on future trainings or how to, if anyone's interested in being a point of distribution for gun locks and gun safes in the community, they're free from the county, and happy to answer any questions. We have a website, and just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you. Other members? Mr. Thorsland?
Thank you, Steve. First of all, if people like holiday lights and things, I work for the university, so I can say this with firm conviction that they don't do too many things well, but one of the things they do well is the glow out at Allerton. It's fun, I think, because if you've got kids, they can run around in the dark and see all the pretty lights. It's open, I think, until the 23rd, and then it opens up again on the 26th for another week or so. They take a little donation when you come in, but it's very nice. Another one on an update, somewhat for some of the new members. I like to wax poetic about renewable energy. Great Britain this year in 2024, for the first time, renewables will provide more than fossil fuel for their energy. They're becoming kind of a dominant force in renewables, like a lot of other European countries. And for your new members, just to let you know, we are currently not in compliant with state law with our wind and solar ordinance, and we continue to not be compliant with state law. But it's coming anyway, and we'll see how it goes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Chair Locke.
So y'all might remember that as part of our ARPA expenditures, we contributed to the Urbana Health and Wellness Center. Well, that will be opening. Government officials in this room and elsewhere have been invited to a first look on Saturday, January 4th at 11, and the greater public is invited to attend as well, Saturday, January 4th at noon. So everybody go out just east of this building on Washington, see the new facility, see your tax dollars at work, your ARPA dollars at work, and see what we've added to this greatly needed thing that we've added to the community.
Thank you. Anybody else? JJ.
Thank you. The last 10 days have been quite interesting for me. As a community member, made the decision to defame me online through a series of social media posts and an email that he sends to a email list that he's collected over the years. Number one, I never realized how much power I hold over the county, because according to this individual, I tell Executive Summers everything to do. We've heard this before. I know, and most of you know, that Steve Summers is his own man, and he is not taking orders from anyone. I also don't take orders from anyone. I hold my integrity at the highest level. Every one of you knows that.
This defamation resulted in community members discussing me at great lengths, community members who I've never met, who I've never spoken to, who've never reached out to me, most of which don't live in the community that I live, in the district that I live. Some of the comments online were even from county board members, forms of intimidation perhaps, putting my picture, home address on social media posts, repeating false accusations that have been debunked in the past. And so I've retained private counsel to address these issues. And the individual that started the social media post received the following letter earlier this week. I'm going to read it because this applies to every member in the community who should defame me, every person that has commented on social media. If it is an untrue statement, this applies to every one of them. It even applies to county board members who might make defamatory comments about myself. This is from the law offices of Steve Beckett Law Office, LLC. It's addressed to Craig Walker. Dear Craig, I've been retained by John Farney to pursue all claims against you and any other individual that conspires with you regarding the false and malicious defamation about him that you have published. In your false claims, you have stated that John Farney was and is corrupt, unethical, and unqualified in his professional capacity in his employment as a teacher. The basis for your statements are: 1, the assertion that John received employment as a JDC instructor because of a political relationship with Steve Summers. 2, the assertion that the alleged wrongful employment was somehow tied to political support or acquiescence to a ballot initiative for the 2024 general election regarding a public safety sales tax. 3, the assertion that as a county board member, John Farney has acted unethically because he has a conflict of interest that bars his employment as an instructor at JDC. 4, that the JDC instructor position was a, quote, no notice, end quote, employment position filled in a deceptive way by John Farney. 5, that John Farney lacks teaching experience and is unqualified for the JDC instruction position. And 6, that John Farney intentionally withheld information on his statement of economic interest statement. Each of these statements is false and defamatory. In addition, you and anyone who has published or republished the false and defamatory statements are liable for compensatory and punitive damages. Because each of the statements you have published are what the law calls defamation per se, damages are presumed for each publication of the falsehoods. Because you have acted with malice by knowingly making false statements, recklessly failing to investigate the truth of these matters, you are also liable for punitive damages. If you had spoken with Steve Summers or John Farney, you would know that there is no truth to the statements you have published. John was advised of the posted position at JDC by a friend unrelated to the county board. Steve Summers had nothing to do with this. The position was available through the Regional Education Superintendent's office, posted since December of 2022. John applied for the position and participated in an interview process with the Regional Office of Education. The Regional Office of Education asked for and received an ethics opinion from the Champaign County State's Attorney that there was no conflict of interest in John Farney being employed in that position. John has been employed as a teacher at private schools since 2018, which made him qualified for the position as a JDC instructor. John has performed his duties appropriately and received positive evaluations. There was no relationship between this employment and the public safety sales tax referendum. As to the statement of economic interests, the form clearly states that the information submitted covers the preceding calendar year in which John was not employed by the Regional Office of Education. As a former supporter of John Farney, you could have easily contacted him to obtain all of the truthful, factual information. Instead, you have chosen to engage in a campaign of lies for the explicit purpose of your own self-aggrandizement.
Every individual who has likewise caused these lies to be published within the community by social media, by oral statements, or in any written form are liable for those publications. John Farney is a lifelong Champaign County resident, an able public servant, and a well-recognized member of this community. Your defamatory conduct has damaged him grievously. Demand is therefore made for you to publicly retract each of the defamatory statements by public declaration, utilizing the same public and private media you have used to defame him. Very truly yours, J. Stephen Beckett, Attorney at Law. I know that each member of the board received a copy of my pay stub. I'm glad you all know how much I make. It's a public record. I'm glad that the community decided they needed to discuss my wife and I buying a house. I'm glad that the community needed to discuss the fact that people from places like St. Joe, Mahomet, Philo, Homer are unqualified because of where they live to teach individuals inside of Champaign-Urbana and Savoy. These are the lies that are being spread by community members and county board members, and you've been put on notice by my attorney, and we will litigate if necessary. Thank you.
Member Wilson.
Thank you. 3 quick items. Number 1, facts matter, not accusations and not misplaced assertions. I personally very much appreciate Mr. Farney's efforts to step up to the plate, proactively engage in the community with the skills he's been given, which is teaching, that he takes that time to help those that are vulnerable in need at the JDC, and I very much appreciate the efforts that he does at JDC. Item number 1. Item number 2, I will not sign any petition that has to do anything with getting rid of the county executive. I happen to actually like the job that Steve Summers does. And if it was my choice, I would increase his salary back to commensurate what it used to be. So I actually very much appreciate Steve Summers and the efforts that he does for our community. And number 3, happy Hanukkah. Hanukkah for the year 2024 is celebrated, observed on sundown December 25, ending at sundown on Thursday, January 2. Hanukkah is an 8-day Jewish festival with the first day known as Hanukkah, Festival Lights, and Feast of Dedication. So, happy Hanukkah.
Thank you. Any other comments from board members? Go ahead, Ed.
Having worked at JDC for 22 years, the teachers there really don't get paid all that well, especially for the environment that they teach in. They have to have us in the room to make sure that the kids behave and that they do what they're supposed to. And a lot of times they are put in dangerous situations because of that. And the fact that John would step up where he could earn a whole lot more money in other jobs and do what many people will not do, which is go to work and get locked up while you're doing it, is a ridiculous statement. And those accusations are just, to me, ludicrous. So that's my horse. Sorry.
Any other comments from the board? Go ahead, Ms. Lockshin.
I'll just be very quick. I wanted to make sure that this was clear. This is also a bipartisan show of support. John is somebody who I knew as a coach and parent before I knew him as a county board member. I've seen him do work in the community, and I actually have visited the JDC, toured the facility while he was teaching, and saw the camaraderie he had in the classroom firsthand. I think if anybody took the time to talk to him and make that work, they would see that these accusations are completely ridiculous. Thank you.
Ms. Furtado.
Yeah, sorry, I had to step out. To echo what my colleague said, I don't always agree with JJ. We actually disagree on a lot of things. But I've had the opportunity to get to know him as our capacity as co-leaders of the Finance Committee. And I have found him to be a person of great integrity, somebody who can disagree with you in a productive way. As board members especially, this is hard, just to be blunt, to be on this board. And there needs to be when somebody comes after somebody on the board in a way that is so egregiously false, the only response that we should have is that this is not appropriate. I feel like I'm a better person for knowing JJ, and I think that anybody who's willing to do the kind of work that takes that kind of servant's heart should be commended, and not falsely, just in a really disgusting way, vilified. Likewise, I have known Steve Summers for almost a decade now, and I can say with certainty that I have never met anybody with the level of integrity, patience, and just decency as Steve. And I want to say to both of you, like Jen said, thank you for your service to our county, and I'll just keep doing the good work you're doing, because the people who understand the county see the work that you're doing and appreciate it.
Any further comments? Go ahead. Sorry.
So it's, yeah, it's the last one. It'll be quick, I promise. It isn't our custom to respond to people directly who speak in public comment, but I did want to thank the members of AFSCME for coming out tonight, and I want to thank you for sharing your experiences. I know that you know where we are in the process, right? We're exchanging proposals, and we were going to reconvene and discuss in light of your position and our position. Can't say much about anything more than that, but I did want to acknowledge and thank you so much for spending your time and coming to talk to us tonight.
Okay, I'll close board communications, and we'll move on to our presentation, the fiscal 2023 audit. We got representatives of Clifton Larson Allen here, along with our auditor, Mr. Danos. Welcome. Thank you.
Good evening, Board. It is my pleasure to present the 2023 Act for an Audit, which is, of course, clean or unqualified. And the only remark I'll make before I give you Hope Wheeler, our external auditor, is to say that the net position of the county increased from the beginning to the end of 2023 by $26 million. So that is good news. Okay, I will have Hope tell you about the audit.
Hello, thank you for having me here tonight. Hope Wheeler is my name, a principal with Clifton Larson Allen. Just give you a little overview of the audit process. It is a lengthy process, as you can tell. Auditing December 31, 2023 year end. We start in March with planning meetings, and then we really start true field work and auditing in the month of May. And then it does transpire throughout the summer with follow-up and additional work being done and year-end field work. Things did slow down a little bit with the change in the loss of the chief deputy, Jill, who we were working with a lot. And then in September, we get the financial statements. Well, typically we do. Those came in October this year. We audit those financial statements, and then we go through our review processes. So it is a lengthy process, goes on for a long time. Just wanted to explain that a little bit. We We're not testing every transaction, of course, we would be here even longer. But we're selecting samples, we're looking at invoices, contracts, confirming revenues, confirming bank and investment balances with outside sources. We're doing internal control testing, looking at bank reconciliations, and working with a lot of different departments, some that have separate sets of internal controls outside of the main county controls. We do a risk assessment to determine what areas to focus on, what areas to spend the majority of our time in, areas that are higher risk. So with that process, as George mentioned, we did issue several different opinion letters. Our report date is December 17th, and it is an unmodified opinion on the overall financial statements, meaning no modifications to our opinion. And then we also issue an opinion on overall internal controls. That was an unmodified opinion. And then a separate opinion on your federal expenditures. It's called the single audit. To touch on that for a minute, let's see, I jotted down some notes. Your federal funding expenditures for 2023 were approximately $32 million. And we tested coronavirus funding, low-income home energy assistance funding, and Workforce Investment Act funding. Great news on those, no findings related to those. We did issue some findings in the report, clean opinion, once again on the audit, but there were some corrections that were made to the annual financial statements. There are 2 findings in the main report. One is called material audit adjustments. That's that we found in our process certain items of significance that needed to be changed or corrected from our audit process. Those changes were made so that they were corrected for the final financial statement. I don't know that I'm going to read through each of these. They're bullet pointed in the findings. I'll give an example of one. There were some new investments during the year that was new to being recorded, so they weren't recorded necessarily properly on the books, and so adjustments had to be made to correct those in the financial statements. Some other pensions is a complicated area. There were some errors in the way the pensions were recorded on the financial statements. The second finding relates to the collector's office. Once again, a separate set of controls in that office. And this has been a repeat finding that very small staff, and so there's not proper segregation of duties, accounting terminology you've all probably heard, and where there's not necessarily enough checks and balances in place with the number of staff there. And so recommend continuing to look at that to see what duties can be segregated, and just make sure you have good review processes in place for handling cash receipts there, handling the bank reconciliations, et cetera, to do what you can to make up for the lack of segregation of duties if that piece can't be corrected. I will say there were 2 additional findings last year that are gone, that were rectified. One had to do their separate controls in the county clerk and the court services office, and that was about documentation of the review processes in place, and we did see that those were corrected during the year. So appreciate seeing that recommendation adhered to. And then there was also one federal single audit finding related to procurement last year, and that was corrected during 2023. We did issue a separate letter, we call it a management letter, with just a few other findings that are of less significance. Just recommending looking at, for example, there were 3 items in this. One related to errors on the capital asset schedule, and just making sure you have internal controls in place to review those manual worksheets. Same with lease receivable, a correction needed there, but it was not significant. And lastly, when you're self-insured and using a third party for your self-insurance processes, a lot of those, most of those get what's called a SOC 1 report, a Service Center Internal Control Audit. We recommend asking for copies of that each year and reviewing those internal controls to make sure they have a clean audit report and that they don't have findings since they're handling that self-insurance funding. we were able to get a copy of the report, but just recommended you do that internally. There's another letter issued specifically to the county board required by our auditing standards. It's called a governance communication letter. In this, it talks about certain items that we want to share with you as a governing board, since we work closely with management and elected officials, et cetera. This letter talks about there wasn't any new significant accounting policies that required to be implemented in 2023. It does talk about certain estimates that are part of the financial statement preparation process. It does say there aren't any specific financial statement disclosures that were particularly sensitive that we wanted to point out. It does also point out again the corrections that were made during the audit process, and if there were any past adjustments, there's a schedule attached that show those. High-level overview of the information. I'm happy to answer any questions I can answer that you might have, or anything I didn't cover since I went through it fairly quickly.
Hi, Hope, George, thank you for this. This is honestly for either of you, in case anybody's watching home, or since we had folks, employees here tonight that talking about financial issues. Could somebody just explain in layman's terms what, George, what you said about the $26 million improvement in our net position, so that nobody thinks we've got an extra $26 million that's available to spend?
That's, sure. The increase in the net position could, and it was, much characterized by an increase in our capital assets. So of course we've got 2 new buildings, and that's actually more than the 26 million. So that's a good point to make. We're not talking about liquid funds when we say that.
I was trying to pull up because I didn't bring the 350-page document with me. The number you mentioned, that was on the government-wide statements. Is that correct?
I'll show you.
I had it pulled up, but I lost it. There. Okay, yes. Sorry, there's 2 different bases of accounting in the financial statement, so I don't have all the numbers memorized to remember the income, but that was referring to what I'd call the full accrual basis of accounting, the front government-wide statements. Capital assets are a factor in that. Another big factor in that I just wanted to point out is pension. A few years ago, you had to implement GASB 87 on pension standards, and actuary studies determine what your potential liability is for all employees long-term. That can swing up 1 year, down 1 year, and it can swing millions of dollars. So that's part of that number. I can't tell you off the top of my head, how much that impacted this year, but I did just want to share that as part of that number.
Stephanie.
Yeah, I have a few questions. So on the 9 findings of material audit adjustments about just, interfund activity that was improperly recorded, this sort of continued improper recording of things is something that's very concerning to me as finance chair. The explanation for it was that there was turnover of personnel in the county auditor's office. Could you explain that a little bit more? So when did these things occur, and how did that correlate to the turnover in personnel? Since these were at least, and this is my understanding, right? This is the 2023 audit, so these are 2023 transactions, or revenues or whatever that was not properly recorded, or they were closeouts, so they would have been things that happened right at the end, right, in those few months right after 2024. So what was the personnel change that led to these 9 material findings?
In 2023, I hired from my staff the acting chief deputy, who was later turned into the full chief deputy. So she still had a lot of help from the previous chief deputy in getting the 2022 audit done. And there were things that were not learned or embodied in the in the course of the year 2023, which affects the audit that I present to you today.
So can you walk me through, when you have a new personnel person like that, the kind of oversight that you provide in order to determine, you know what I'm saying? If you do have somebody that's in that new kind of position, which as we all know, we're going to be in again for 2024. We were in for all of 2024. It looks like we're going to be in that same position going into 2025. So how are you going to, 2024 is, too late now, but how going forward are you going to address this? Because as we know, there's similar things that are happening, and I do have a follow-up question about one of those similar things, but so how are you going to, if it's an issue of personnel turnover,
Yeah.
and these internal controls, I think, are a measure that matters a great deal to this board, how are you going to address that so that we don't see 9 findings again?
Yeah, you like that number 9. Let me give some historical background to give a real sense of perspective to the public before I answer that specifically, because it's unfair to me. In 1976, Laurel Pressing appointed a chief deputy auditor who lasted 36 years. And every subsequent auditor who walked into the office had a master sergeant who definitely knew how to ground the new elected. In my case, it's the opposite. I'm the elected auditor who, thank God he has a CPA, who has gone through 4 chief deputy auditors. So I myself, though elected, participate and will continue to participate, this is the answer to your question, in the cross-training that I think insulates us from rapid departures. You had a specific question. Did it have to do with interfund transfer of the circuit clerk?
No, I do actually care a great deal about that. No, my question was in terms of process.
Yeah.
We had these findings, right?
Yeah.
And the answer to why we had the findings was because of personnel turnover. As you just stated, we have continued personnel turnover.
Mm-hmm.
We still need to have the level of transparency and things being in the right accounts, right, throughout the year. So my question is, how are you going to address these findings? What mechanisms are you going to put into place in order to ensure that as we continue to have staff turnover, that this doesn't happen, that it isn't found out?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, sure. I myself wrote the response to the finding, of course, and so I may as well read to you from that. That reflects my prepared thoughts, and then I'll elaborate from there. What I say is, with appropriate staffing, the Office of the County Auditor shall timely adjust any raw trial balance entries to fulfill gap and proper classification, especially with regard to retainage and the components of net position, including the distinction between the actual and projected pension investment earnings. Okay, so obviously I'm reading the findings and knowing what particular weaknesses in reporting to affix my attention to, regardless of my having full staff or an adequate individual in the very responsible role of CDA. And then the second paragraph, I say investment accounts. This leans on the treasurer a little bit. She's not here, but nevertheless, you should know.
Treasurer is here.
Good. Hi. Investment accounts are currently placed by the treasurer into vehicles that require periodic market revaluation and resultant booking, so that's new to us. These are new. Either investments get placed in more cash equivalent vehicles, or the Office of the County Auditor masters the accounting for these ever-changing market positions. In the latter case, the Chief Deputy Auditor will implement the external auditor's guidance for the current ACFR into the next one. So this is part of the process. The findings indicate the rough draft. They get corrected during the back and forth period before this audit is finalized.
Okay, so I'm actually not trying to be mean. I'm just actually really trying to understand this. So your response to this issue was that it's because of personnel turnover, and your response is that with appropriate staffing, it won't happen anymore.
No, it's also that the cross-training we do, including my own, will insulate us from turnover.
So, okay, I see what you're saying. The next question I have is, kind of being projected to 2024, where at the last time you were before this body, at least that I was here, I wasn't here on Thursday, you had, we had a discussion around a similar type of issue where our payroll wasn't recorded as a liability for months. And I had asked you, you had indicated that you thought that the reason that the report was wrong for a few months on your website was an error in how the report was generated rather than an error of the underlying data. And I had asked...
Neither's true, Stephanie. You brought that up before I had any idea it would be brought up. Let me tell you what occurs in Munis. We try to minimize user input. That's where programmers come in. If the same numbers have to be repeated, but they're for subsequent complementary entries, the system generates them. That's called SG, System Generated Entries. For some reason, the algorithm broke. It happened for 3 months, and I'm happy to say that we corrected it in November. It's dried up. Go look at the monthly reports. So
yeah, the question that I had was, did the correction require a journal entry?
it did.
And when did you post those journal entries?
Maybe a week ago, before I closed November.
So just to let you know, you posted the journal entries on November 4th and November 13th, one of which was for $4 million, which was, no, let me finish, which was before...
I didn't close November before November ended.
You posted one of the two corrections
Who
on
did?
November 4th.
Who did? Which person? It's indicated there's an audit trail.
Yeah, so listen, I just want to be clear.
I want you to be clear.
George,
I'm
let her
trying
finish
to finish.
speaking.
Knock
You
it
speak
off.
one. No, I'm chairing the meeting, George, and I'll cut your mic off if you can't have proper comportment.
So listen, I want you to understand my concern, right? I asked you specifically in a meeting whether there had been journal entries in order to correct how payroll was recorded. And you didn't answer the question. You had posted one of them before the meeting. And so do you understand why that would be a level of concern to me? That there was a $4 million journal entry that you posted that either, I don't understand, either do you post things that you're not aware that you're posting? Or did you not understand my question? Do you see what I'm saying? Do you get why it would be concerning to me?
If it were recurrent, yes, but the fact that Orion stepped in and made the corrective entry that he then gave us the template for, and that we did with personnel in my office subsequent to that, I think your concerns, though legitimate, are, as of now, allayed. But I understand your feelings.
Thanks. You had mentioned that you had anticipated my question was going to be about the circuit clerk's office and how that revenue is being reported according to the agreement that, took a lot of energy, including from the state's attorney's office, in order to come to a resolution on. Has that issue been corrected? Had those revenues been
At least
reported
partially.
properly?
Yeah, I don't want to get into too many details. I worked with the appropriate staff in the circuit clerk's office to see if the transfer could be done from that end rather than from my end, to see if the permissions are there. And I think that all three transfers were done before the close. Well, we have closed December, but before tonight. If they're not, I'll talk to her tomorrow.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. I don't know because the reports aren't up since I think the last one was October. So it was just a legitimate question.
Okay.
The last one is, and also Hope, thank you. I really appreciate, we've had a lot of conversations this year, and it's nice to see you in person. I was like, do I know what Hope looks like? So I actually really appreciate that. I did want to also just say, and this is not directed at you, Hope. There are consequences when an audit is this late. One of the consequences was that the Regional Planning Commission was going to apply for an expansion of our Preschool for All grant funding. It's called the Preschool for All Expansion and Prevention Initiative. The Regional Planning Commission is very good at getting grants. The grant that they would have asked for is between $1 and $2 million.
It's much closer to 1 million.
Well,
It's less than 1,100,000. I got the email from Brandy Grants.
Okay, I've spoken to her and I know what she was going to. Yeah. So, but anyway, fine.
But don't
$1
say
million.
it like that. Okay.
Could you just let me finish?
Well, you could
and
say
we were
between 1 and
not
10 million.
allowed to submit that grant because we were not in good standing for GATA.
At that time.
Right.
But now that stop pay will be lifted, once we file everything with the Federal Audit Clearinghouse, we may well get that grant. That's my information. Otherwise, I misunderstood Orion, whom I talked to today. So we'll see. You and I can confer with our concern about that.
And then the other thing I wanted to mention, and I know that you're aware of this, is that our Head Start funding, then there's a January 6th deadline that matters a great deal. And I want to make sure that next year we are not this close to that deadline, because that would be a very significant grant source if we were not able to apply for it. And there was a great deal of concern from the Regional Planning Commission on this issue. I've probably personally had 10 phone conversations about it. So whatever it takes in order to assure that we are not in this position again, needs to happen.
Thank you for being.
And so what I would like to say is that I am asking you to come every single month to the board when you're on the cow and report to us in detail how the audit process is going.
I'll consider it.
Thank you.
Further board questions? Mr. Wilson.
Thanks, Steve. Hope, thanks so much for being here. We really appreciate all your effort. The board truly is thankful for you. I have a couple questions because just really lack of understanding. I want to kind of bring it up out of the details, maybe up to the higher level. Explain to me again what your findings were. So there were how many findings altogether?
There's finding 1 and finding 2.
Finding 1 and finding 2. So there's only 2 findings.
Yeah, there are 9 bullet points within finding 1.
Got it. And then what determines the significance of the finding? Like, is it, oh my God, the house is on fire, we got to do something? Or is it mediocre or systemic or something that a Band-Aid will do? So what does the order of significance mean?
It's really a matter of professional judgment, but a lot of it is based on the dollar amounts. So, like say $1 million adjustment, we calculate what we call materiality. That's over materiality. So the material items are what make this material weakness finding.
So significance is based on a dollar threshold?
Yeah.
I'm trying to I'm
a
never
piece
going
of
to be
it,
an
yes.
accountant. I have no
Don't
desire
want
to be an accountant, but there's probably people watching this, and they may be maybe clueless as me. So there's some significance, and you're saying the threshold is basically the $1 million level. Am I right on this?
Well, I just threw out that as an example.
They actually keep that classified, Jeff. You don't discuss exact amounts for materiality. You can see why.
Well, I'm trying to quantify significance. And is it something that has to be addressed right away? Something that gets addressed over time? Or you just wait till next year to figure out whether it was addressed or not? Is my questions off or?
No, I understand your question. And back to dollar amount is part of it.
Okay.
But there can be other things. There can be, it was a pervasive issue, or it's an internal control issue that we feel we didn't find a significant issue, but it could translate to. So there's a lot of things that go into it. The items on this listing of the 1 through 9, a lot of these are related to the year-end financial statement preparation. There are some that I would expect would be done properly throughout the year. Back to your question a little bit, on a month-to-month basis. But then some, you don't keep your monthly books on full accrual basis of accounting. You keep them on modified accrual. So some of these are only the year-end financial statement preparation process. It impacts the numbers in that front financial statement that we're giving our opinion on. So if it's a significant dollar amount that's off, that's what we put in here. Some of those wouldn't be corrected until that financial statement is being prepared next year. other ones, you would look at, okay, this we should really have cleaned up on a monthly basis. Back to what Stephanie mentioned earlier too. Some of these, as you're closing out your books at the end of fiscal year, you would pick up on retainage payable and record that, say, in the month of February. So it all kind of depends timing-wise, but a lot of these are year-end financial statement items in this finding one.
To simplify this, then, there's nothing I have to fix today. It gets fixed throughout the year. Am I right on that?
Yes, I would say for finding one, that is the case. It's not you have a significant internal control issue that affects tomorrow, yeah.
And then finding two, likewise?
Finding two is more on a daily basis sort of thing when there is a small group of people and on the daily basis, maybe cash receipts are coming in and bank reconciliations are being done. That is something that you would want to look at as soon as you can. It's been out there for a while, reported in the same fashion. It's not necessarily uncommon, but it is something we still have to report because there generally just aren't a lot of employees in collector offices.
So finding two is more of a structural change.
Right.
Correct? Okay.
Right.
All right, I've been through a lot of management reviews in my life, but this one statement bothers me. But I'm thinking you're saying it's not a big deal. The lack of sufficient controls over year-end reporting increases the likelihood that a material misstatement would not be prevented or detected. Somehow that just doesn't hit me right. Maybe because of my ignorance of how the office runs, but I don't think I would be satisfied with that, and I'd want to fix something like that right away.
And what that is saying is in the perfect world, when you're ready for the audit process, a government, a for-profit corporate entity would hand to us, here's our year-end financial statement, this is what you're auditing. It would have been through review processes internally and all corrections found internally.
Prior to submitting?
Prior to submitting.
Did that happen here?
Not relying on the audit process to catch errors.
Yes.
What'd you say?
I apologize. So I think what you're saying is all the internal reviews should have cleaned up everything prior to the external audit, so there'd be a so-called clean audit, wouldn't find anything, you did everything right, however, it wasn't as clean as we want it to be, and some of the internal reviews didn't happen as they should have. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further questions from the board? Mr. Cagle, correct? Thank you.
Hi. Appreciate you guys coming and taking the time to, kind of bring this down to a level that some of the normal people can understand. One thing that I've heard pretty frequently and is a little bit of a concern is we've mentioned turnover, we've mentioned cross-training. It sounds like is there staffing issues? Is there how do we feel about the staffing in general? Yeah. Yeah, of course. Nice to meet you. I'm George. Nice to meet you.
Your mic, please.
Pardon me. Hi, John. Thanks for acknowledging me. I'm the auditor, and it's good to meet you, the new member. What Stephanie alluded to, I thought, was only one half of the equation. It sounded like everything's on me and she's chastening me. But I also felt a glimmer of hope that she was willing to offer your ears and your openness to my needs. I did indicate those in a memo that I emailed you with regard to my budget. We've also, and I don't know if this is the right time, although during the budget discussions, perhaps it could come up, we haven't decided who does bank reconciliations. And as Stephanie has indicated, I've got a lot to do. When it comes to the 2024 audit, I had half a year without a chief deputy auditor. So for me to do bank reconciliations, I don't know, it looks like you wanted to hire your own person in finance. Good luck, but definitely keep us abreast of that because I may not be able to use them ultimately. They have to be audit worthy. So I ask and hope to have your support. Thanks.
So I think ultimately my question is, what's the staffing situation currently? Do you feel fully staffed? Do you feel like you're still understaffed?
Not yet. I have 5 people in the office, so it's me, chief deputy, and 4 accountants. I have 4 accountants. I don't have a chief deputy. I did openly post for one of each, only because I don't know if I'll hire from within or if I'll hire from without. The real problem is the continuity of institutional knowledge. Like I was alluding to before, there had been a chief deputy auditor who was there holding the fort for 36 years. As elected auditors, some of them very engaged, came and went. But in my case, I've got to fill those gaps in. I mean, I'm the most senior person in my office. A lot of times, everyone's looking to me for leadership on very specific things that I haven't actually done. So, I think I can do it. So, thanks.
Jen?
George, I think if you're looking for advice on how to retain staff, Julia has staff that's been there for 20 and 35 years, so a friendly conversation. I do hope that you're fully staffed. I want you to be fully staffed. When your chief deputy left in the middle of the year, I remember having a conversation where you said you'll roll up your sleeves and get this audit done yourself because of your CPA. And I was really disappointed that that didn't happen. Now, my question's for you, Ms. Wheeler. Thank you for being here. You mentioned a phrase that really resonated with me. You said, in a perfect world. So in a perfect world, when is our audit due without asking for an extension?
October 31st.
It's October 31st. And we weren't providing you paperwork until
October 24th.
October?
Yeah, well, there's always paperwork.
This is not a question for you, Mr. Danos. Please, I
Thank
will
you.
get back to you. I'm asking Ms. Wheeler.
George, you're not being questioned on this. Please be quiet.
We know there were delays. You don't need to give me specific dates. We know there were delays. But when you notified the county as a whole, when you notified us of this is missing or this is a problem, were we as an entity responsive? Was the auditor's office responsive? And again, I'm asking Ms. Wheeler, were we responsive? Were there delays? Did you have to wait for, did you speak, with whom did you get to speak most often?
After Jill's departure, we started working with Orion Smith a lot, and so of course, he hadn't been in the position all year, so I think it was taking him a little longer to respond to some requests, but then he was getting information to us. I'm not sure, if he used the auditor's office to get some of that information or not, but he became our main go-to person.
So your main
to get
go-to was
information.
Orion, who very kindly, and for dollars, came back to help us out in addition to his full-time job with RPC. And so there were delays with things, and he did that. But in a perfect world, this would have been done months ago. You mentioned that field work begins in May. What sort of field work? I'm just curious, 'cause a lot of us have no idea what this is. What is field work?
Oh, yeah, really kind of an old terminology. It's really when we start, but we may do preliminary work that's internal control work, but true field work starts when the year-end balances are reconciled, and that's typically been in April or May for you guys. So that's when we can really, you should have all accruals and receivables recorded and all adjustments made.
And so that would all be all information that is by the end of this year, all be reconciled by whatever date, and that's when you can start your work?
Right.
Okay.
Right. Now, to explain a little bit, the financial statement, the ACFR, you hear that acronym, that doesn't usually typically come until later in the summer, late in the summer. That was due to us September 6th, I think is what we had said initially. So then we could get it audited and get it through our review processes to make your October board meeting and have it uploaded to all the sites needed by the end of October. But since that came later, I think you mentioned the 24th of October, I mean, it just takes a while.
We hope we'll see you
compromise
before December next year.
what we needed to do. Yes, I hope so.
We hope so. Thank you for all of your work. One last point I just want to make for just an openness for the public fiscal responsibility part. We pay you, we contract with you. You have staff that works with you as well. And when this goes over, is your staff, your lower paid staff able to help, or does it become a higher paid, just you get to do it?
It does become a challenge because we are very scheduled out with the next audit.
For planning
the next
for-
audit. And
yeah.
so that certainly did happen where I was doing work at my level that would have been done by a manager or director level, and then same, the director was doing work that would have potentially originally was scheduled by a senior.
So to
or
put a
an
fine
associate.
point on it, failures or insufficiencies on the county end, whatever the reason, the county end, made it more expensive, made our external audit more expensive this year. Fair?
Right.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for your help and for being here with us tonight.
Ed?
Question about the deadline. Is the October deadline like the 90 days over the true deadline? Is the deadline actually July?
No, the 9 months after year end is when the federal single audit is due to be filed. There really are no extensions on that. There was one time that I recall back in COVID, but that's due. I think that the 90 days you hear about, and you could talk about that a little bit more, is maybe the state requirement, the state filing, the GATA, where there's some grace periods.
I think, that's not my impression, but what Ed might be alluding to was the GFOA asks you to file for extensions if you don't get it in by June 30th. That's an anachronism. And they assess they're not the auditors, they assess the presentation for cosmetic reasons, really.
Okay,
Would you
I
say it's
apologize because I'm fairly new to this, but I just don't know all of that, so.
Okay.
Stephanie?
So there's a couple of different deadlines. So if the, for Susan, for the circuit clerk, the Supreme Court wants that audit by June 30th. If they're not going to get it by June 30th, you have to give them a 6-month extension, which most counties do, is my understanding, which we failed to do for a while, but we corrected that this year thanks to Susan, who did that work for us. The GATA compliance impact for being outside of GATA compliance starts immediately after September 30th. We got our first notice of impact, I believe October 3rd, and then it was like 15 days later. There's 5 steps. There's a series of escalating steps that is like immediately after that deadline, 15 days after that deadline, 30 days after that deadline, and then 100 or maybe there's 60 days after that deadline. That's the one that we're under right now, is we hit the 60-day, which includes things like not being able, RPC not being able to draw down administrative fees for their grants, and also not, so what that means is that cash flow issues become an issue with the Regional Planning Commission because they can't draw down like grant funds while we're out of that compliance. This year they had, I was in very close, like kind of weekly conversation with them, and they had enough cash flow in order to manage their business. Although they had 2 commitments, serious financial commitments that they had made in the community, that they had to tell people that they were gonna wait to give them those funds in order to ensure that they had cash flow. And if we hadn't hit this deadline, they would have had to come to us with cash flow assistance. That doesn't mean they're not going to get the money. They are, but it is, they have to have enough money to operate. So the deadlines are immediately after that September 30th, there's a deadline, then 15 days, 30 days, 60 days, and then the most serious is 180 days. We would have been under that 180-day deadline twice in this county. The only reason that we weren't impacted by it was because of COVID. Then we had one year where it was, roughly on time. It was a couple of days late, and now we're back in the situation. So that's that. The other second point of clarification is I think I could ease your mind. We've, as a body, there's been lengthy discussion about this. We have taken reconciliations back from your office. We gave them to your office. While there was that transition going on in the treasurer's office, you graciously said that you would do those.
Well, we did for a while.
You did for a while. They were not completed last year. Obviously, that's a driving factor in the timeliness of the audit. There didn't seem to be any corrective plan for that, and they are back in the treasurer's office, and that's where they're going to stay.
Where you hired an additional staff.
Yes, in order to.
I just want everyone to understand that to compare apples to apples and not to oranges.
I wasn't the person who made the commitment that you could get them done with the staff that you had. You were.
Well, it was my decision to see how much I could extract the work from our office as a whole. I'm not the type of person who likes to overstaff and then waste taxpayers' money. And that's just the way I am. I obviously opposed your tax increase. One thing I noticed that the board chair likes to allude to, but I think with the double standard, is that on the one hand, I'm not doing the right thing by RPC, but on the other hand, RPC is doing a great job doing the work. I mean, that's a tautology. I mean, do you think that Ryan did a good job for RPC or not? I'm afraid to endure your criticisms because I think he's a great guy.
May I respond?
I would like to actually just make a point of order and just remind, I guess, first, and then I would like to shift it back to the chair here. This is a report to the county board. This is not a back and forth and a rejoinder and a debate. You're here to give us information, not characterize it and spin it in certain ways. This is not the George show. This is us making decisions and understanding with the audit. And this is not an invitation for you to respond at all. You are still on our time.
Wow.
I'm going to go ahead.
Wow.
Thank you for saying wow. Go ahead.
I'm grateful to RPC for sharing an employee with us that carries institutional knowledge and was able to do the work to complete an external audit after I was assured by our professionally credentialed elected that he could do the work himself. I'm grateful to RPC for that. That's all. Thank you.
I'd like to say one thing if I could, because I think I misspoke when you asked your question. I said the federal audit's due 9 months after year end, which is October 31st, which is not correct. So September 30th, if I said that incorrectly.
Further board questions for Hope? Go ahead, Michelle.
I just wanted to clarify, Hope. Our audit is complete through peer review,
She means
It's quality review, yes.
and we're done.
The audit is issued, there are two things that are not done. There's the data collection form, which is a summary of your federal funding that's been issued in the financial statements that also gets loaded in a different format to the Federal Audit Clearinghouse. I think Orion, from talking to him today, is working on that tonight. Then there's also a CIFR, a consolidated year-end financial report, that is a state version of state spending. That's the last piece that gets done, and I think he's still working on that. Then that has to come to us. We have to audit it. It has an in relation to opinion from us. Then that has to be loaded to the state GATA site.
Okay. Because the GATA site is the site that we need to get through. Just so I know we're hearing a lot of acronyms. The GATA site is the site that is holding up our ability to get grant funding, to apply for grant funding, for Head Start to maintain their funding. So we are, it sounds like, at least a week out minimum from being able to resolve our issues in the GATA site.
I can give you some very firm dates. I spoke with Orion today, the January 6th doomsday, I think it was January 13th, in fact, with respect to Head Start. It does take the Federal Audit Clearinghouse up to 5 business days to make full recognition so that everything's done in GATA. But we do have Christmas Eve and Christmas, Merry Christmas, Jeff, that will take us possibly to January 2nd, but it's well in advance of January 13th.
Okay, well, but to be clear, our doomsday of January 6th is
It's not the 6th.
all of the Head Start funding.
That's
So-
what we're referring to.
Yeah, so it is a doomsday, for sure, not facetious.
I did also ask Orion today too, when that would be ready for us, so I could make sure our final quality reviewer is not off on holiday, and so we can line up that review process to try to turn it around as quickly as we can.
Stephanie?
I have a final question for our auditor. Does this concern you?
It absolutely does.
Any further questions? Dr. Storr?
Hi. I just had a chance to look at this when I came in, and I've been trying to read through the findings as we go along, and I see that one of them pertains to the collector's office, and I note that she's here. And I wonder if we might ask the collector if she would care to comment about the finding, or if she's aware of it.
Chris, I think that's kind of outside of the scope of our
Is it?
discussion with Hope, yeah.
Oh, my mistake.
Any further questions? I do have a comment. I think all elected officials need to be prudent stewards of taxpayer dollars. I agree with you on that. However, when you're offered additional funds and then are unable to do the work and you've chosen not to accept the funds, that's simply foolish.
Steve,
It's done, George. We're done. You can turn the mic off.
You and Emily
Mike?
think that you can just dictate in a one-way
Yep,
fashion to
I'm
me.
chairing the meeting, and yes, I can.
You don't believe in the First Amendment, it's
You
clear.
need to turn the mic off,
You
George.
are
You're
cancelers.
finished.
You've
We
been
have no
trying to
further
cancel me all
questions for
year.
I'd like to move approval of the minutes of the November 21st, 2024 regular meeting.
We've shifted over, we're moving over to ARPA. So going on to what was 14A, 1 through 6.
Good evening. We included
Good
the
evening.
monthly
Thank
update.
you.
And a couple of things that we're working on right now are extending some deadlines for some of the agreements that need extended into the next year and beyond. And so we're working on getting those wrapped up by the end of the calendar year. And we included in the packet, in the chart, we continue to add projects that are completed. So that's continues to expand on completed projects. And then a couple of specific requests for updates that we received were regarding the sleep program, which is administered by RPC for lighting and video doorbells. As of earlier this month, they had completed 18 projects, and they continue to do the work and may get 30 completed by the end of this year. And then in early 2025, they'll come and provide a report on how that program is going. And then another request was about the Community Violence Intervention American Legion Stand Down, 2 events that they've had. And we did have at least reporting from the first event that they had at least 76 veterans that had showed up for opportunities for employment and job training and legal counsel and mental health services. And they also provided tangible items to them as well, including clothing and toiletries. And then we'll continue to gather that reporting for the second event that was this fall as well. So those were a couple of specifics I wanted to mention, and I can address any specific questions if you want.
Chris.
I think I do have a relevant question this time. One of the sleep programs was going to take place in the Scottswood neighborhood just east of here, was it not?
That was one of the 3, yes.
Okay, how's that going, or do we?
So yeah, as of earlier this month, they said that they have 18 projects completed, but I don't know which neighborhoods that includes out of the 3. So by early 2025, they'll have more specific data for us on what areas that included.
Thank you.
Further questions for Kathy?
Okay, I want to talk about the jail ARPA money. So obviously the jail project is still going on. It's going to go on into early next year. We're on the interior older parts, redoing flooring, painting, cleaning them up so that we don't have, claims of wildly inequitable housing standards. Because it's going into next year, we are trying to be very careful about what happens to what ended up being about $6.4 million worth of ARPA money. There was the $5 million lump sum, and then there was the 1.6 that was for the cameras. So in ARPA world, it's just all ARPA money. We don't want to lose it because we don't spend it on the jail project. But at this point, the jail project has gone very well and is under budget. And we have considerable amounts of that jail ARPA money left. So what we're working on is a list, and it's just a list. It's not a commitment, but it's a list of things that we could spend the money on that remains once we're done with the jail project. We'll sign an agreement internally between the county executive and probably like the county board or something. It's a acceptable way within the ARPA regulations for us to hold on to the money. But we have to put into this agreement what generally we're going to spend it on, how much generally it's going to cost. So I have the list. I'm going to share it with you in a second, but I don't want you all to start reading and not listen to me, because I know that's what I do when people hand me papers. It is overwhelmingly capital projects. That's on purpose. If we resolve many of our capital projects with this ARPA money, it gives us greater flexibility in our general fund budget in the next few years, which we're going to need desperately. So when you look at it, that's why it's overwhelmingly capital projects. There's a couple other things thrown in there. One of them specifically is Champaign County Environmental Stewards have asked for an additional $50,000 for the architectural design, whatever the technical term is, for their building. Some animal control stuff that we're still working on, some IT things, some of the DEI work that we're doing. Again, it's just a list. If you feel there should be something on here, please send it to me. We'll add it to the list. Once we are done with the jail and we know exactly what we're going to spend on the jail and all of that is resolved, we'll come back and we'll decide based on what we have left, then what are we going to spend it on at that point.
What sort of timetable do we have on this?
We could construct the agreement to spend the money till the end of 2026.
No, what's the deadline for getting things on the list or
The
adding?
end of this year. We need to have the agreement signed and done by 5 p.m. on December 31st. So, yeah.
I just want to make sure I understand. So it would basically be creating like a catch-all agreement. So we're allocating by the end of this year the money into a basin, and it will be spent on these things, and
Yeah.
it's
I'm
whatever.
calling it the kitchen sink list. We're throwing everything in there and the kitchen sink. It is overwhelmingly county projects. The only non-county thing is the environmental stewards thing. I don't know if we want to reopen the door for community things, but this is also originally ARPA money that was allocated for county use in the county buildings. So we're also trying to maintain that original intent as well.
And do we have time? Like, this is our last meeting before the end of the
You
year.
can email me.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you this list of what we have. Send me your emails into next week of what you think is missing. We'll put it on the list. And it's just going to be on the list. And again, once we're done with the jail project, February, March, we'll come back and have another conversation of how much money is actually left. What do we want to start spending it on?
Ellie.
Do you have a ballpark estimate of how much money we're talking about at this point?
I will say millions.
Go ahead, Beth.
Can you give us an idea of what we can't spend it on, so we don't waste your time throwing stuff at you that you're like, no, it's not eligible for that? Is there a usual,
I would say, I mean, I
we
would
can't
say,
use it for salary, we can't use it for bonuses, we can't use it
Pension or
for,
debt
buying me a
service.
birthday
You
cake.
can't use it on, you can't use it on pensions or debt service.
I mean, just send it to me, because if we can put it in, we'll put it in. If we can't, we just won't. Again, we're not agreeing that we're going to spend it
No,
on
I just
this.
want to, I don't want to waste anybody's time putting pie in the sky stuff out there that is obviously not eligible.
Well, I mean, it's just send me an email.
Okay.
It's fine, yeah. I think that's the more efficient way to handle it, so.
Anyone else? Jeff?
Thank you for that information. My curiosity is, why are we waiting until December to have that information? Did we know that we were underrunning by $1 million plus in November?
No, we did not. With the transition of the facilities director and Dana's health issues, we were a little late to the game on figuring out this information and identifying exactly how much. We originally were thinking it was significantly less, like a couple of 100,000. So once we caught on to what we were actually looking at, that's why I'm here now.
Chris?
Thank you. Are we absolutely certain that we're not going to need this money for the jail?
Well, so
Or
we are holding
the
it for the
county
jail.
building?
We're not spending it until we're done with the jail and all of the jail bills are paid. But in the event that we don't come up with millions of dollars more worth of jail bills, which we're in the final phases of the jail project, is highly unlikely, this will give us the tools that we need to be able to retain the money and spend it on other things. The jail project went surprisingly smooth. So, yeah.
New construction generally does.
We're not questioning it. We're just going to keep our mouths shut and let it finish. That's all we're doing.
JJ?
So is this one of these situations where we need to give a thumbs up to this or something? Or
No,
this
I'm
is-
gonna-
You're just letting us know, sending you your emails, and there's going to be an agreement sent to the executive and the county board chair sometime before 12/31.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I follow
And
you.
again, nothing is going to happen with this money until we come back. After the jail is done, we'll pull out our list, we'll talk about what we have left, and then we'll start thumbsing up and thumbsing down.
Brett?
When do we think the jail's going to be done now?
I think we're thinking end of March in terms of all of the pods, because you have to remember we can only do one pod at a time. So we're in one pod, we'll finish that, we'll move everybody over, go to the next pod, that situation, so.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I have a question. I know people have brought this up before, but video conferencing and free calls and stuff like that at the jail, can this money be used towards that?
My understanding is there are free calls at the jail. I don't, Jen, I think you're on that committee, aren't you? Or was that Jen Straub, maybe? Yeah.
That was Jen Straub, who's not here, but yeah, there are free calls at the jail, and there's, everybody has a tablet issued to them, so there can be video visiting as well, and they get movies available on the tablets.
Part of the additional work we did was make sure that we had adequate Wi-Fi to be able to handle that, so and that's been taken care of. Go ahead, Stephanie.
I would strongly encourage that if you are going to send anything to this list, that it be a one-time expense. We cannot put recurring expenses on this unless you want them to end in 2026. So your recommendation can be, we give raises to staff, that'd be great. And then in 2026, they're all gonna have their, decreased. We could up jury pay, but then in 2026, it's going back down to what it was, right? So you need to think, if you are going to add anything to this list, it needs to be something that you spend once and then it's done, right? Because we don't have money for recurring things. We just don't. If you put something on this list that's recurring, it'll be your job then when we have to take it back to go tell the person that we're taking it back from. So, yeah.
And again, that's why the list is 90% facilities projects, because if we use the ARPA money for that, we free up general fund money, and then we can make other decisions with that general fund money, and we just overall reduce our CARF, we reduce our facilities plan costs, and we don't go delinquent on maintenance of our buildings. So it looks super boring. It looks like, how can I tell people we spent this much money on buildings? But in the end, it actually gives us much more flexibility in our budget to be able to do the other things internally that we are concerned about. So it's a very boring, responsible choice to spend a lot of it on facilities. So.
Jeff?
Just one more quick comment. Is the I thought we needed an extra judges chambers. Is that on that list?
I have on there just to get started with the architectural study of what an addition would look like.
And then one more question, is the CRM, data management, I don't know what the terminology, the JANO system for state's attorney and public defender, is that considered within the purview of this extra money?
We could, well, I'll just put it on the list so that we
well,
can
could you
talk
put-
about
I
it.
just, I wonder if that would be something worth considering.
Yeah, it's just software as a
Yes,
service.
software,
Yeah,
it's soft, but it's capital, sort of, I
Yeah.
guess. Okay, thanks.
yeah, I can add that, yeah.
Stephanie?
To be clear, you could add the purchase, but not the licensing fees, not the
well, we would need
annual
to-
part.
Yeah. When we would need to, put on the part that we're going to pay for by the end of 2026, right? So implementation, transfer, those kinds of costs we can put on there.
All right, not seeing anyone else, we will move on to item 2, broadband task force recommendations. Jeff, you want to go ahead and go through that, please?
Yeah, thanks. I'll keep this real quick. It's, you can see it's your attachments, page 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. We had the broadband task force meeting Tuesday. Here tonight is the VOLO representatives, Peter Falk and Jason Young. If you have some questions, they're going to be free to answer. I'm just going to give a brief summary, super high level, based on my level of understanding. But what happened was the two-phase project, when phase 2 is trying to be implemented, some big changes happened. Next Link exited out of the program, so that only left us VOLO. And there were some changes in the eligibility requirements as to who can receive the connection. So based on that, VOLO came up with 2 options to consider for what they classify as phase 2A, option 1, option 2. If you look on your page 27, option number 2 was what was approved by the broadband by majority vote. There was 1 nay, everyone else was yay. But in summary, the difference between option 1 and option 2 is option 2A does not add a backbone, but adds 36 miles of fiber, or adds 34 miles. I mean, option 1, no backbone. Option 2 installs a backbone. Well, a little additional backbone, which we could tie into the future if we needed to. And then option 1 had 180 miles of fiber. Option 2, only 80 miles of fiber, because less fiber, but more backbone. And then the number of premises is less in option 2. The cost to the county board, our commitment with ARPA funds, is the same, $4.7 million. And then the cost of VOLO is slightly less. And that's basically the summary. In our consideration, and Mr. Thorson can correct me, was really, we thought having better installed future capability was better for the county than to have additional premises. So if you have additional questions, we have our experts here in the corner. They've been waiting here since 6 o'clock or 6:30. But if you have some questions, please ask them. But we chose option 2, and I'm assuming, Stephanie, that this is a thumbs up kind of thing or not. It's still $4.7 million, no change in the allocation from ARPA.
If that's the conclusion of the task force, I think, yeah, it's...
All right, perfect. Any questions for our esteemed experts?
Go ahead.
Hi, I'm curious why you would, I applaud having, backbone, trunk lines, makes sense on one level, but I'm also a bit concerned that it said that, I think you might have said that there'd be fewer people served. Is that correct?
True statement. So option 1 had 935, and option 2 had 659, which would be about 276 less people served. That's a true statement. So it was really a matter of 50-50, really. What would be the long-term better benefit for the county? And Mr. Thorson, you could correct me on this, but we all felt considered as a body that the better option for the county as a whole would be to have the backbone, because we would never be able to go back and put that backbone in. And sometimes in the future, some other grant money or other allocations that may occur, then we could tap into that backbone. But putting in a new backbone may be, I don't know, would be almost incredibly difficult to do.
Eric?
Yeah, if I may, one of the defining statements that was made by our fine friends from Bolo, and I appreciate that they stepped up when NextLink dropped out, was that if they were putting in this backbone with organic funds, meaning money they make from customers, it would not be the quality of backbone that we can do with the ARPA funding now. So what this does is gives us a nice, good, solid, a great analogy was this is a big main road like Highway 1, and the laterals that come off of this, or the sub-streets that come off, can grow. This is also a little more true to our original goals of the Broadband Task Force. And one of the interesting things that has just occurred to me as I was handed this lovely list of things was one of the statements in the meeting Tuesday night was if the county could scrape up a little more money, this could be matched by them and we could serve a whole lot more houses. So Michelle, you might see that email from me, or when we free up general fund money, it might be something to think about. I will point out that ARPA very specifically talked about rural broadband, and it was one of the bigger pieces we committed to. And so this is very intriguing that the jail might somehow enable us to do a little more. And Volo's been really great about working on this project, getting it through, and stepping up when things changed rather rapidly. So, and I appreciate their help.
Chris, does that answer your question? Chris, does that answer your question?
I think it does. I enjoyed, I found the discussion enlightening.
I just wanted to make sure you got your answer, because otherwise we'd have these gentlemen come up to the mic. But if everyone is satisfied with where we're at, then we'll move on, and I'll let those nice folks go home after being here for a good while. All right, thank you. We've got a few resolutions for ARPA spending to go through, so can I get a motion to approve the adoption of Resolution 2024-315, authorizing an amendment to an intergovernmental agreement with the Village of Royal? Ed, second by Jenny. All in favor? Are there any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve the adoption of Resolution 2024-316, authorizing an amendment to an intergovernmental agreement with the Village of Pasodum? JJ with a motion, second by Aaron. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Can I get a motion to approve the adoption of Resolution 2024-317, authorizing an amendment to an intergovernmental agreement with the Housing Authority of Champaign County? Carolyn, second by Eric. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Can I get a motion to approve the adoption of Resolution 2024-318, authorizing an amendment to an intergovernmental agreement with the Pasodum Consolidated Drainage District, JJ, with the motion, second with Aaron. Any discussion? Stephanie.
On occasion, those of you who represent these districts, if you would not mind stopping by the respective offices and looking deep into their eyes and reminding them that this just absolutely has to be done by September 3rd, whatever the date is, I would appreciate that a great deal. Because this is like, there is no more extending it beyond these.
I believe Mr. Meharry is tired of hearing from me.
All right. All right, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, now we can move back to regular agenda, approval of the minutes. Can I get an omnibus motion to approve the minutes of November 21st, 2024 regular meeting and December 2nd organizational meeting? Aaron with the motion, second by Eric. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Appointments to county board committees. I'm hoping we can do this in an omnibus motion.
No.
I'm just going to go down the list, and people have questions, please raise a hand. Appointments for chairs in each area of responsibility. Justice and Social Service, Jamala Rogers. Policy, Personnel, and Appointments, Chris Storr. Finance, Stephanie Furtado. Environment and Land Use, Eric Thorsland. Facilities, Jenny Lokshin. Highway and Transportation, Lorraine Cowart. All right. I suppose I need to go down with special committees as well on that. No, that's, okay, no, that's, I'm done with that portion. All right, appointment of vice chairs for each area of responsibility. Justice and Social Service, Ed Sexton. Policy, Personnel, and Appointments, Jeff Wilson. Finance, John Farney. Environment and Land Use, Aaron Esri. Facilities, Jeff Wilson. Highway and Transportation, Ed Sexton. Appointments of chairs for, I've managed to bollocks this already. We've already gone through appointment for chairs for standing committees and vice chairs, appointments for committee members of standing committees. For Environment and Land Use, Emily Rodriguez, Jamal Rogers, John Farney, Chris Storr, Jennifer Locke. For Facilities, Stephanie Furtado, Beth Benish-Theranont, Ellie Hanauer-Friedman, Carolyn Greer, Daniel Wiggs, Ben Crane. Highway and Transportation, Brett Pugh, Samantha Carter, Jake Fava, Matt Sullard, John Cagle. All right, onward to special committees. For Labor, Chair Emily Rodriguez, Vice Chair John Farney, members Stephanie Furtado, Aaron Esri, and Daniel Wiggs. For Litigation, Eric Thorsland as Chair, Aaron Esri as Vice Chair, Chris Storr, Jennifer Locke, Jeff Wilson as members. Opioid Task Force, Jennifer Locke as Chair, Ed Sexton as Vice Chair, Chris Storr, Emily Rodriguez, and Aaron Esri as members. Broadband Task Force, Bailey Conradi as Chair, Vice Chair is Samantha Carter, members Lorraine Cowart, Jeff Wilson, Eric Thorsland, John Cagle. DEIA Task Force, Jamala Rogers as Chair, John Farney as Vice Chair, Samantha Carter as member. All right, can I get a motion for those appointments? Dr. Storrs made the motion. Chair Locke is making the second. Is there any discussion? Or forever hold your peace for 2 years. All right, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you for all of you folks being willing to take on these dedicated tasks. All right. Yes.
I see it's not on the agenda, but remind me how the liaison or other committees, how does that work?
I have fallen behind on that. I've got an interim appointment of Ed to the Regional Office of Education because they had requested someone. I've so notified him and their current superintendent. I'll be working on the other ones and try and get those done within the next few weeks. I've talked with Aaron a little bit, and I'll talk with Jenny as well on trying to come up with people that are appropriate. All right, new business. Can I get a motion to approve the adoption of Ordinance 2024-15 Fiscal Year 2025 Annual Budget and Appropriation Ordinance? Motion by Thorsland, second by Benish-Theranont. Is there discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Oh, excuse me, this is a roll call. Thank you. Could we please call the roll on this?
Carter. Cowart. Crane.
Yes.
Esri.
Yes.
Farney.
Yes.
Fava.
Yes.
Furtado. Greer.
Yes.
Hanauer-Friedman.
Yes.
Lokshin.
Yes.
Pugh. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Sexton.
Yes.
Storr,
Yes.
Thorsland,
Yes.
Vantage Thiernot,
Yes.
Wiggs,
Yes.
Wilson,
Yes.
Cagle,
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you. All right. Can I get a motion to approve the release of RFP 2024-008, Real Estate Broker Service for the County of Champaign? Moved by Aaron, second by Ellie. Discussion. Ellie. All right, Jenny. There.
This is actually from Member Sullard, who is sick tonight and couldn't come, but wanted to share a comment. He wanted to see if we could add something in there about encouraging minority-owned and women-owned businesses to apply. I would extend that to add veteran-owned real estate services, because we also want to track that with project labor agreement. So I would move that we amend the RFP before that goes out to just add a line encouraging those groups to apply.
Second to that. All right, we have a motion and a second to amend. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, we have an amended RFP now. Again, is there any discussion? Jeff?
2 questions for understanding. One is, this has to be a commercial broker, not residential.
It would be commercial, yes.
Okay, and then my experience on the residential side, some things there's a challenge with dual agency. That would not occur in a commercial real estate environment. Is that true or not? You know what I mean by dual agency, right?
Do you mean like that they're representing both the buyer and the seller?
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's a lot more common in residential, but I don't know, also don't do big commercial brokerage, so I don't know.
I don't know. The reason is I'm saying that is we want someone that's our agent that absolutely advocates for the county. And I don't know, from the legal perspective, it would like to be nice to have in the RFP that dual agency is not allowed. Does that make sense? Okay, thank you.
Would you like that in the form of an amendment then, Jeff? That we will amend the RFP to add the dual agency clause as well?
Yes, please.
Second with JJ. All in favor of a second amendment?
I will approve that, just with the stipulation that we just run that by the SA's office and they say that
sure.
we're allowed to add that dual agency clause. But yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. We want an agent that's working for us, if we are allowed to put that in.
All right, we will run that by Andrew as well. Okay, all in favor of this dual agency clause, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, we make 2 amendments to this. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve the use of opioid settlement funds for a $7,500 sign-on bonus for an addiction medicine practitioner through Rosecrans? All right. We have the motion. I'm sorry? Emily made the motion. Second, we'll go with Jenny. All right. Are there any discussion on this? I know we had some discussion. You had some discussion on the Democratic side. Do you want to just give a quick overview of this? So
Yeah,
everybody's on
a
board?
quick overview. Our stakeholders that we invited to the opioid task force were very clear that they needed a need in our community is medication-assisted treatment. Rosecrans has a doctor that they would like to hire, an addiction medicine practitioner who will provide medication-assisted treatment to our community, to our opioid-impacted individuals, which is what the settlement funds are for. And we would be offering a $7,500 sign-on bonus so that this doctor would come to our community. And that is what we're asking for.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Can I get an omnibus motion to approve the adoption of Resolution 2024-305, authorizing payment of claims, and adoption of Resolution 2024-306, approving purchases not following purchasing policy? Motion by Ellie, second by Ed. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, can I get a motion to approve the adoption of Resolution 2024-307, appointing Eric Honey as the Champaign County Facilities Director? Motion by Jenny, second by Aaron. Any discussion? Mr. Honey has dutifully sat through our meetings since about 7 o'clock. Well, no, he was, you got here a little bit late, I think.
Your last chance to run.
Eric has been doing some work already. Well, Dana's illness has precluded him from being here for about the last few weeks, so it's been very helpful to have Eric here. So he's doing a great job. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Congratulations, Eric. Thank you. All right, if there's no objection, can I get an omnibus motion to approve the adoption of Resolution 2024-308, appointing Anthony Nichols to the Mental Health Board, term 1/1/2025 through 12/31/2028. Adoption of Resolution 2024-309, appointing Joseph Omo-Osagi to the Mental Health Board, term 1/1/2025 through 12/31/2028. And adoption of Resolution 2024-310, appointing Kyle Patterson to the Mental Health Board, term ending 12/31/2025. Can I have a motion? Motion by Jeff. Second by Eric. All right, thank you. I'm sorry?
Nobody wants to spell my last name.
I said Beth isn't getting any recognition.
I think that's that cataract that they haven't quite taken out of this eye yet that must be causing my problem. I will try and pivot a little bit more. Sorry. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Adoption of Resolution 2024-311, extending the timeline for the DEIA task force. Jenny and Lorraine. Sorry. All right. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Can I get a motion to approve the adoption of Resolution 2024-312? All right. Appointing Don Owen as community member for the DEIA Plus Task Force. Beth with the motion. Thank you. Feel properly chastised. Second by Jamala. Is there any discussion? All right. Signify, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right. Can I get a motion for Resolution 2024-313, approving extended contract between Rosecrans and the County of Champaign for reentry program? Chair Locke with the motion, second from Carolyn Greer. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to approve the adoption of Resolution 2024-314, approving budget transfer BUA 2024-11-183, General Corporate Circuit Clerk, amount $7,260.24. Reason, transfer to cover benefit payouts for 5 employees that retired. Can I get a motion? Motion by Jamala, second by Ed. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Cowart.
Yes.
Crane.
Yes.
Esri.
Yes.
Varney.
Yes.
Fava.
Yes.
Furtado. Yes. Greer.
Yes.
Hanover Friedman.
Yes.
Lakshin,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yes.
Sexton. Store,
Yes.
Thorsland,
Yes.
Finish Theonot. Wiggs,
Yes.
Wilson,
Yes.
Cagle,
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve the adoption of ordinance 2024-16, revising the civil fees to be charged by the clerk of the circuit court, excuse me. Motion by JJ, second by Jomala. Our clerk is here. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Executive, I do need to make a small change to the ordinance, which is necessitated by something the Supreme Court, in their infinite wisdom, has decided to do. Never content with leaving our fees alone. In your resolution on page 2, under the eviction category, you will see something there which right now says we have 2 categories of fees for that. One says it's for $15,000 and under. One says it's for $15,000 and over. The Supreme Court has now decided we're going to have one category only instead of splitting those up. And so now we will just have one line there instead of 2, and that fee will be $306. Everything else thus far remains the same.
JJ.
I would accept the circuit clerk's explanation as a friendly amendment.
Yep.
Thank you. And I will send you a clean copy of this that has that change in it.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, is there any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you for staying, Susan. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, believe the next item, let's make sure here. I'm afraid for discussion only, we have circuit clerk transfers. The clerk is still here. Did anybody have any questions for the circuit clerk with regard to the transfers?
Just, Susan, you could just nod. Do you concur with how the auditor characterized the status of those transfers?
Yes, there was a problem, just so you know.
You do need to come to the mic so the public can hear us. Sorry.
You could have nodded from back there.
I know. There was a problem with Munis making the transfers. There are some things that it gets a little confused by, so we had to get some technical help from the help desk to make it happen, but they are done. And there was good cooperation there with the Munis folks and with the auditor's office too. It was a little complicated, but we got it done.
All right, that was discussion only. Next item C, we struck closed minute sessions because of some extenuating circumstances. We will consider those at the January meeting. The grant coordinator update is in your packet. Next up, post-issuance compliance reporting for the 2022A and 2022B bonds. Travis has dutifully sat here for a very long time. Does anybody have any questions for him? Seeing none, thank you for staying here, Travis. Appreciated you being here. Yes.
Before Travis leaves, I should have said this earlier during the, thank you for all your work on the budget. Thank you to Steve and Michelle for all their work on the budget. We got in a hurry to pass that, which is wonderful that we can pass a budget unanimously. But really, thank you to the executive's office and to Travis for all, and everybody there for all the work you did on that budget.
Okay. Applications for open appointments are in your packet. I'll forward my recommendations next month. The decennial committee reports for Newcomb Township and Road District and for Summer Township and Road District are available on the county's website. Seeing no further business, this meeting is finally adjourned Thank you.